Ok, có
Voilà.
Hello to all and welcome on the Watches TV, and today we are going back to class to clarify how some watch brand names are properly pronounced, because yes, we sometimes do hear rather amusing interpretations, and just a few days before our local lockdown, well, we went on a mission to illustrate this.
Perregaux.
Vacheron Constantin.
Ademar Piguet.
Parmigiani Fleurir.
Urberg.
Nice to see people on the streets, feels like a long time ago. Anyhow, nothing wrong with these pronunciations, totally understandable, but let's set the scene once and for all. And I do know that often French pronunciation can be slightly tricky, or that it doesn't really follow any logical path. So back to class, but not in a boring way. Well, you know the house rules. And to confirm what I just said about French way of saying things, well, let's start with the German brand, because yes, we'll follow an alphabetical order, just to be a bit square and very Swiss, but we won't go over every single brand. We could otherwise be there for a little while. Okay, I know we indeed do have some time available on our hands in these circumstances, but had to make some choices, and as a general note, most brand names are people's names, the founder's family name. So let's start this with German brand A. Lange und Söhne, und meaning and, the ampersand symbol, and the two little dots on the O, the umlaut as they say in German, refers to the plural of Sohn, so you can deduct that Mr. Lange had some sons when he created the brand back in 1845. But Mr. Lange was a bit cheeky because his first name didn't start with an A, it was Ferdinand, and yes, well, you guessed it, the A refers to a name which probably was very popular at some time in history, Adolf, a name which kind of faded away for some reasons. So why did Mr. Lange use the A instead of the F? Well, I have no idea. Maybe the name Ferdinand could have been the Adolf of its time, or maybe by doing so he was sure that his company name would alphabetically always be first, and if that was the case, well, it worked nicely, proving it again today since it's the first brand we're talking about. So I know many people only say Lange, and it's not Lange, it's Lange with a strong G, and I also do know that for the people of Lange, well, this full A, Lange and Söhne denomination is important to them. Doesn't make our lives easier, but we will abide when necessary. Right, Lange?
Armin Strom.
Armin Strom.
Okay, next brand, and let's remain with the German language, but this time in Switzerland with the brand Armin Strom. And the entire complexity of this brand's name pronunciation resides in this STR, which needs to slightly sound like sh, and also roll a little bit in your mouth. And yes, Armin Strom is the name of a guy, and for info, Strom means current in German, as in electrical current. Okay, next then, woohoo, this is a hot one, Audemars Piguet. At the origin of the brand, from the Vallee de Joux, you indeed have Mr. Jules Louis Audemars and Mr. Edouard Auguste Piguet, but no ampersand between the two, as the company was originally called Audemars Piguet and Compagnie, meaning that there were other partners, family members at the start. Anyhow, you don't pronounce the S, it's not Audemars, you don't pronounce the T, Piguet, and many do refer to the brand simply as AP, even in French, AP, and this because it's a brand which has become so cool, right? Hey man, what AP is this, and so forth. So until not long ago in French, yeah, we would say, oh, that's a nice Audemars on your wrist, but now we just be cool too, and we say AP.
Okay, blank pain.
Blank pain.
Okay, next, and yes, this one can arguably be very confusing. For some, again, the magic of the French language, Blancpain, because I fully understand the desire of pronouncing this C, but no, it's a silent C, and as a little side story, Blancpain means white bread, and yes, there was a Mr. Blancpain at the origin, Mr. Jean Jacques Blancpain, and personally I had never heard of this Jihan name elsewhere. Jean, yes, but Jihan, well, that's the first for me, quite like it, and he must have liked to ride bulls at the time. Yeehaw, if you see what I mean. And one final thing, it's not Blancpain, we hear this here and there, but really pain, Blancpain. Okay, next one is quite easy, Beauvais, and here again the T is silent, so no Beauvais, just Beauvais. But the full name is just a little bit more complicated if you add the Fleurier, a little city, a village in the Val de Travers, and home to quite a few other brands. So Beauvais Fleurier. So for the next one, Breguet, same as what I just said, no Breguet, silent T, Breguet. In English, one tends to accentuate the E, like saying Breguet, but in French, simply Breguet. And something I just wanted to add, and this also concerns Blancpain, because these two brands' main manufacturing facilities are now located in the beautiful Vallee de Joux, but historically speaking, I mean, their presence over there is quite recent.
Breitling.
Okay, next, Breitling. Yep, nothing to add, an easy and a pretty international one. And at the origin of the brand in 1884, well, there was indeed a Mr. Léon Breitling.
Czapek.
Czapek.
C'est Czapek.
Okay, next one is a little bit more tricky, and though it's quite a new name on the watchmaking scene, it's a name of historical meaning, Czapek. It's of Polish origin, and we do our best to say it as right as possible, but just to be sure, let's ask our good friend, co-organizer of the Oros Kronos Watch Festival, well, let him tell us his name also.
Maciej Mazurkiewicz, or the shorter version is Maciek, so it's Maciek Mazurkiewicz. The Maciej is more official way.
Well, so how do you properly pronounce this?
Hi, Mark. I'm pretty sure that in Polish we pronounce it Czapek.
So there you go, wasn't too far off, right? Okay, next one is easy, de Béthune, but there could be a trick for English speakers because yes, the TH sounds just like a regular T, and actually regarding tea, well, we drink tea, but we spell it with the TH, but sounds like tea. You see what I mean about French language? Well, the brand dates from the early 2000s, and there was no Mr. de Béthune. It's a homage to a French knight of the 17th, 18th century, inventor at the time of the escapement, and we do know how dear the mastery of regulation is for de Béthune. Okay, next, nothing too complicated, Ferdinand Berthoud, and yes, both these are silenced, no Ferdinand Berthoud, and again, the TH is just a regular T. Next one can be a little bit more tricky, Girard-Perregaux, lots of R's there, and we indeed don't pronounce these R's the same way around the globe. Reason why we often say just GP and it will do just fine. But as a quick reminder, Girard-Perregaux, the X at the end is also silent.
Grobel Forsey.
Grubel Forzi.
Grebel Forsey.
Okay, still sometimes a little bit tricky for some other reasons. Grobel Forsey. Grobel Forsey. Mr. Robert Grobel is originally from the Alsace region in France, and Mr. Stephen Forsey is English. So in terms of pronunciation, well, I guess the truth lies slightly in the middle between the French way of saying it, Grobel Forsey, and a more English version, Grobel Forsey. And let's simply ask Stephen about this.
Grobel Forsey.
You see, it wasn't complicated. Okay, next one, and I'm afraid to announce that there was sadly no Mr. Hublot. And yes, the T is also silent, well, at least in French. Hublot, which means porthole, a design signature, especially on early models.
Jaeger-LeCoultre.
Jaeger-LeCoultre, je sais pas.
Girard-Perregaux.
Okay, next brand is a little bit more challenging. Though this first name appears to be slightly German, and therefore there is a strong desire of pronouncing it the German way, Jaeger, which by the way means hunter, well, Mr. Jaeger was actually French, from Paris. Reason why you pronounce it the French way, Jaeger, and for Mr. LeCoultre, well, that's an old Vallee de Joux name, so Jaeger-LeCoultre, or GLC for some. JLC. Do you see how complicated? Next with the Jaeger-Rose, and despite the two names, well, at the origin of the brand, you have one man, Mr. Pierre Jaeger-Rose, and yes, well, you don't really pronounce the Z, it's kind of up to you. Jaeger-Rose, Jaeger-Rose. Next one is quite funny because yes, MB and F seems pretty straightforward, but because of this English friends in the name, Max Busser and friends, well, in French nobody will say MB et F, and everybody will use the English version with the N, MB and F. Well, if you hear MB et F, well, you know that that person never heard about the brand before. Okay, now for a serious one, Patek Philippe, and you see, well, this one is easy too. Patek Philippe, and many simply referring to Patek, another Slavic name, and no one really using the abbreviation PP. Doesn't sound that great, if you see what I mean.
Parmigiani Fleurier.
Okay, next, and no trick there, Parmigiani Fleurier. Parmigiani Fleurier, you pronounce the name just like the cheese, but of course, if you say it the Italian way, well, you do have to roll a little bit this R. Parmigiani.
Tag Heuer.
Okay, sometimes a little bit tricky for some, Tag Heuer. Obviously, the difficulty not residing in the TAG, TAG, which stands for Technique d'Avant-Garde, a company of its own before, they acquired Heuer in the mid-80s. But yes, it's the Heuer part which can be a little bit complicated, so think of it as Heuer, Tag Heuer, Tag Heuer. Okay, next one is not that hard, Ulysse Nardin, but we often hear Ulysse, and that's quite normal, but yes, in French we say Ulysse, and concerning the Nardin name, well, it's not Nardine, which could be confusing or even embarrassing in some countries.
Ouh là là, c'est là je connais pas. Urweg, c'est quoi?
Uhrwerk. That sounds really German.
Okay, with this one, we do hear people struggling a little bit with it, and understandably so, but let's go. Uhrwerk, but let's be flexible about it. Okay, now the big one with Vacheron Constantin, and same thing, Constantin, Vacheron Constantin, and yes, there was a Mr. Vacheron and there was a Mr. Constantin.
Voutilainen.
Voutilainen.
Okay, let's remain in complicated territory with Voutilainen, Mr. Kari Voutilainen being of Finnish origin, and therefore I wouldn't even try to be a smartass when it comes to Finnish pronunciation. A world of its own, a charming one, but a unique one.
Viva Watchmaking.
Okay, now for a good French name, Richard Mille, and I don't see much difficulties for this one. Plain straightforward, Richard Mille, not Mille, but just Mille, meaning Richard 1000.
Rolex.
Okay, last one to finish in style, one name where there's not much discussion about its pronunciation, Rolex, the crown, la couronne. Easily transposable to any accent, and I wonder if Mr. Wilsdorf, founder of the most successful brand ever, took this into consideration when using this name in the early 20th century, because could well be the man had a plan and a vision for sure. So I know we did not cover every single significant watch brand out there, but at least it gives you a good idea on how we say things around here. And for ourselves, well, with a good French accent, we would say, The Watches TV! Cute, right? Well, thanks so much for watching. Don't hesitate to share, to spread this indispensable element of culture. And yes, we are looking forward being able to go back out there on the street. But I guess it might, well, take a little bit of time, unfortunately. So take care, all the very best to all, and Viva Watchmaking! And let us remind ourselves how these Geneva streets look like. Enjoy.
Rolex. Rolex. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Foto, c'est bon.
Merci, Madame, c'est très gentil.
Muchas gracias.